Hey everyone, and welcome to the Soul Star Cafe. My name is Ruth Perkinson, and I'm glad all of you guys are here with me today. I have with us again my very great friend Scott McClaine. Welcome back, Scott.
Hey, I'm happy to be here, Ruth. Great to see you.
Yes, yeah, I'm happy you're here with us. And so, anyway, guys, we're just going to go about 10 or 15 minutes with Scott and talking about our influences. Of course, we'll talk about A Course in Miracles, but also we're going to talk about a guy that really influenced both of us over the last many years. The guy's name is Tony Robbins. And I thought we could give him a shout out today, Tony Robbins, and also talk a little bit about your life coaching that you've just started. And so let's just start. Let's start with Tony Robbins. How did you find him? And tell me about his influence on you.
Ooh. I do not remember how I found Tony Robbins, but I've been kind of following some of his information about 30 years, I guess, at this point.
Hmm.
So I have his Awaken the Giant Within and
Hmm.
Unleash the, what is it? Unleash the Power Within. I don't know. There's a few
Yeah.
of them.
Yes.
I have his cassette tapes at
Yeah.
the house. That's how far back I go with Tony at this point. Um, But one of the things that I got from him years back. This was as I was starting my real estate business. Uh, One of the things I got from him was that people are motivated by two things. One is pain. We're motivated by pain, and we're motivated by pleasure. And so those are the two biggest motivators for anybody. And so out of those two, pain is the strongest motivator. And therefore, we don't go and put our hands back on the stove anymore because we felt that pain before. So we don't do that anymore. We don't run across the street without looking both ways because of the fear of the pain of that car hitting us. And so I remember back when, like I say, when I was trying to get my calls in, fresh in business, and not wanting to make the calls. And I don't know if any of you've ever done any prospecting calls before or not, but my old broker gave me a phone book and said, start just calling people. And it seemed like that phone was so heavy. And I remember sitting there looking at it like, I'm not going to make these calls. This is not going to happen. But then I thought about the most painful thing that could happen if I didn't make the calls. And so I started picturing, and I think I can't remember who it was I heard this from, but there was this one successful guy that when he was a kid, they were very poor. And he asked his mom, Mom, why are we so poor? And she said, because your dad hasn't done what was necessary to have us to be otherwise. And so that impacted me as well. So this vision that I got was going into the future, not making calls, and for my kids to look over at their mom and say, Mom, why is it so cold in this house? So cold in this house that our toilet water has frozen. And they all looked at me to say, because he didn't do what was necessary. You best believe I picked up that phone. I started making phone calls.
Yes, you were motivated by the
phone
fear
calls.
of. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. You didn't want that scenario to play out. That's kind of what
Exactly.
I'm hearing. And so
Exactly.
you switched your scenarios, right?
Yes. Yes. Now, of course, in that process, I did visualize making the calls, having success, and taking the family to Disneyland or Disney World, rather. And so all of that was in that same vision. And so most days, that's how I would start my day in prospecting is visualizing the horrible thing if I don't do it and the great thing if I do it. And so, but again, I've got all of that from Tony Robbins. That's that process, that concept. And so that's what allowed me to drive forward and begin to help as many people as possible and purchasing and selling houses over the years.
Right.
Um, and then in this real estate industry, just kind of seeing people struggling, um, whether it's they are wanting to buy their first house, but they still can't get things in place yet. And so next year they're still wanting to buy their first house, and then they still wanting to buy their first house. The number two reason why people sell their houses is because of relationship issues. And so I see a lot of pain just in people over the years. And I wanted to be able to help them in the real estate arena. So I started studying what Tony Robbins would do to help people get through issues. And so I actually took a class with Tony Robbins and Chloe Madonis. to learn how to move people beyond their stuck point. And so this was, years back when I actually took this. And it's amazing. Just part of the class was videos of Tony actually working with somebody. And some of the people that he would work with, they've been going through counseling, whatever, therapy for years, and still was in this place where they were stuck, still in this place where they were miserable. And in a matter of less than an hour of talking with Tony, they were able to break through that and to be able to move forward. Now, part of the class as well kind of took us a year after their intervention with them and to see the successes that they're having down the line. And it was just beautiful just seeing those transitions, the way the people would start off. It was one lady, as an example, when she first came on the stage, she was 250 pounds overweight, I think is what it was. And so going through this process with Tony just right there with her, a year later, they showed her she lost that 250 pounds and it was able to keep it off. To be able to see people on the verge of saying, you know what, I'm about ready to commit suicide, to being at that place where I'm ready to live life. People about to have that divorce take place, but now they're happily married, and just all types of transitions that I've been able to watch him do with people.
Yeah. That's great. It's sound like breaking through your limiting beliefs,
Yes.
right? That's a big one, I think, with his work, because I've studied his work as well. And that he really does help you break through limiting patterns and beliefs that you believe are true and they just aren't.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome.
One of the things I think I heard him say before was we can live from our past or we can live from our imagination. Now, most people, we live from our imagination anyway.
Yeah.
We take our past and we transform it, and it's all completely different. But we call it our past. That's what we believe is our past. And so because of this past that we've created, then we now have these blocks and these hindrances towards us being able to have that success, have that happiness, have that abundance that we know we deserve to have. Yet if we can transform that story that we've had about our past and transform it to something that is more empowering, or to just eliminate the thought altogether, now we are free to step into the truth of who we are.
Right.
And that's where the magic happens.
Right.
As it says in the Course, whatever we're going through in the Course, I'm talking the Course of Miracles, whatever we're experiencing, whatever we think we see, is all a projection from our mind. So if our mind is clouded with past thoughts about pain, about suffering, about not being good enough, now we're creating from that place as well, or we're making our lives from this place as well.
Right.
A limited experience, we're now making a limited experience.
Right.
Compared to that unlimited experience that we're rightfully supposed to have.
Right. I just want to jump in just for a second and just talk about how, that limiting mind, the ego mind, is very powerful. Fear is very powerful. Limiting beliefs are very powerful, and they can keep you stuck in a pattern that sometimes can take, years to break. But it sounds like with Tony and you and working with his material that you were able to see that maybe in your own situation that you talked about earlier, and you were able to say, hey, I don't want to create that pattern in my future. I want to create or imagine or think into a future that's going to be one that's beautiful because I'm taking action in the now moment to create that. So if you're saying positive, happy, loving in your now moment using the right action, right? Then that's what you're going to experience as you walk through your world, trying to create something really beautiful for your life.
Yes.
That's really great. And so can you give us an example of maybe somebody, maybe just you personally, another example that might be helpful for the listener today, using his information? Just one more that you can kind of call out.
All right. So I remember being in a conference before, and it was this one guy in this conference that actually, I may have mentioned this to you. I can't remember now, but I may have mentioned this one to you. But there's this one guy that was there that his energy was just, just really low. And every time you would see him, and we would kind of meet up on a regular basis uh, up in DC area. And every time you see him, he just, and he was just repelling people away from him. And so the coach kind of then called him out and gave him the microphone. And his coach was also following some of the same processes. But this one is just, again, personal to me just because I just knew him so well. And I'm not telling anybody's personal secrets. So,
Right. I gotcha. Yes.
so anyway, as the coach was working with him just in front of all of us, uh, he had him go back into his past. And he recalled a scenario when he was 3 years old. And he came in to say something to his dad. His dad had just came home from work. He came in excitedly to say something to his dad. And his mom intervened. Don't bother your father. He just came home from work. Just leave him alone, leave him alone. And so he walked away just feeling like, I shouldn't talk to anybody. Like,
Mhm.
why am I here type thing. And so he lived his life that way.
Mhm.
But what ended up happening in this experience was that the coach walked him back into the past and had him to restructure that experience.
Mhm.
At that particular time, he gave himself some love and just gave him some energy, just gave himself some messages. And it was interesting just seeing his energy transform
Mhm.
just right there in front of us.
Mhm.
And then he kind of brought him back to the present. And so every time I saw this gentleman from that day forward, he was always like a different guy. I mean, it was like I didn't even recognize him
Mhm.
just because his transformation was so complete, just simply by going back in time
Mhm.
and having that experience, giving himself a different experience.
Exactly. And because it's really okay to be happy. It's really okay to be excited. And sometimes we're cut off from that. Little kids can be cut off from that, from a sibling or a parent or a friend or a teacher. You get super excited about something and it's like a bad thing. It's like, no, it's actually a really beautiful thing to be excited about something.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's a great example. I really love that. And so, what I wanted to mention while we're talking, before I forget, is that you've just recently started your own life coaching,
Yes.
and it's called Lifelong Impact.
Yes.
And people can find you you've just developed a Facebook group on Lifelong Impact. And so, I wanted you to talk maybe a little bit about that and what you're doing to help people in their own lives.
Great. As I mentioned just a moment ago, I've had some training through, with Tony Robbins and with Dr. Chloe Madonis and Joe Stumpf. I've just had training from different places, along with all these years of spiritual practice and Reiki and
Mhm.
Qigong and all this type of stuff, release technique, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
yeah.
And what I've done now is I've combined the science approach to things along with the spiritual approach to things.
Mhm.
And what I'm doing then is working with people individually, and we're looking at what has been their blocks, what has been in the way, that thing that keeps bringing stress into their lives, that thing that maybe is a challenge in a relationship,
Mhm.
every relationship. And like where they keep saying, I'm not, this was the last time I'm dealing with this, but now they're dealing with it again. Maybe it's that income ceiling where they just cannot get above.
Mhm.
Maybe they're just miserable on a day-to-day basis. This, whatever the challenge may be, if it's a challenge that has been kind of stopping them, blocking them, preventing them from experiencing that joy, that peace, that happiness that they know that they deserve to have,
Mhm.
what I'm doing is I'm working with them. We're uncovering it, cutting it off at the root so that they can be free to create a better life. Now, at the same time, we're going to systematically plant seeds to
Mhm.
help them to create the life that they choose to live.
Mhm.
So we can begin to orchestrate a very powerful experience for them where they're now manifesting the things that, that experience that they want to be a part of, where they can be happy, be joyful, be abundant, whatever it
Yeah,
is that they're choosing to experience.
yeah.
Um,
That's
it's,
great.
it's it's amazing just seeing the transformations that
Mhm.
people go through, just sitting there, whether it's on, sometimes it's on Zoom, sometimes on face to face, just depends on the person. um, but it's just amazing being able to see that transformation that a person can take just in a matter of short periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and sometimes you need a coach. You need somebody who can sort of handhold you a little bit through the process. People sometimes have their training wheels on, and they need somebody to just really guide them. And if you're using that spiritual approach combined with, the proven method, like with the Tony Robbins method, right? Then, and even one that you've sort of put together yourself, then this could be super powerful for people trying to level up in their business or their life in any way.
yeah,
And you just have a natural teaching ability. And people feel, I'll be honest, people feel really comfortable around you. I've known you for a long time now, 10 or 12 years. And I've just noticed right away when I first met Scott that he was just so approachable. And there's a quote, I forget who said this. Those who are truly great are those who are most approachable. And you just feel super approachable. And I think people feel very comfortable talking to you. And I'm sure that this is really coming from spirit, this new aspect that you're starting. So we're excited here at this little internet cafe that I've been trying to build for a couple of years. And then you've been on from time to time, really helping us with the Course in Miracles, helping to unpack some of that beautiful wisdom and that teaching that we love so much. And so, thank you. I just wanted to say that Tony Robbins really influenced me. My first book, I remember doing those tapes, 30 years ago, and really, really feeling like he's like, you really got it acted out. Like if you're whatever it is that you truly want, feel that in your heart, and really see it in your mind's eye, and really believe it. See it, feel it, believe it. And, I never thought I'd get a book written. Now I've gotten 8 out and it's kind of cool.
amazing.
And so I kind of really, really appreciate his wisdom and how much he's really done to help a lot of people. So Tony Robbins, a shout out to you and a shout
Definitely.
out to Scott with this new thing that you're starting, Lifelong Impact. You can find him on Facebook, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, anything that you want to add here at the end of our video, that anything that might be helpful for people watching who are trying to break through a block?
I would say that one of the challenges I believe that a lot of us have is that we think that what we see, what we hear, what we can touch, we believe that those things are real. And so if there's something that's not the way we would like it to be, we think we need to reach out and grab it and change it. And it's pretty much impossible to just go over there and change something
Mhm.
because all of it, the cause of it is our thinking. The cause of it is from our mind. It's simply a projection outward. And
Mhm.
so if we're out there trying to change things just physically,
Mhm.
we're not going to be able to have success with it.
Mhm.
Yet if we can go internally and change our thinking, and by the way, as I say thinking, I don't point just here. I kind of point at both sections because
Mhm.
a lot of our thoughts are beneath the surface. It's the unconscious, that subconscious thought that often drives us batty. So it's like consciously we'll say, I'm doing this, but unconsciously we're like, no, I'm not doing that. And
Mhm.
so of course it doesn't get done. So as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So we have to get both parts together,
Mhm.
which is why, like you said earlier, it can really be helpful to have a coach.
Mhm.
But to go inward, and as you mentioned earlier, to visualize, to experience, to be a part of the thing that the way that you want it to be.
Mhm.
That's where the power comes in.
Mhm.
Because now we're not trying to physically do it, but we are understanding that we have that connection with the divine.
Mhm.
And with that connection of the divine that always wants what you want for you. So connecting to the divine and now having that crystal clear vision of what you're choosing to experience,
Mhm.
now you can have those changes take place. You can have those transformations take place. You can finally get to that place that you're choosing to get to. And it becomes easier, it becomes effortless from that point once you can actually experience it internally first.
That's great. Well, that's great wisdom. Thank you so much, Scott. And I appreciate you so much. And you're my brother from another mother for sure. And yeah, thank you again for being on the Soul Star Cafe. We're really trying to make this an internet cafe, a virtual cafe for people, like-minded, love-minded, peace-minded people to come and find something that might inspire them. So check out Scott's work. his Facebook group that he's just started. And thank you again, Scott, for being with us.
Thank you, Ruth. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. All right, we'll see you guys very soon.